Alright, you bastards, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today I'm going to talk about something that I almost never heard about talked by preppers, or not in that way for at least. And it's the biggest danger that preppers could gain even when they're seasoned preppers have a homestead. It does not matter in what country that you are, any prepper can be get hit by this disaster. But before we do that, if you're interested in detective stories, look down in the description for my first book called Bloody Crosses. It's in Dutch. So if you're interested, take a look. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about something that every nation could implement during a war, and that is draft. You could have the best homestead, the biggest stockpile. You can have anything ready as a prepper, but what if there is a war and you need to get drafted? In this video, I'm going to talk about the things that you need to think about before you get drafted, or when you're about to get drafted, and also about dodging the draft. I will talk about not only the moral ethics about it, but also the moral, because there are also moral ways to dodge the draft for certain reasons, which I'm going to talk about, that even the biggest patriot could understand in a way. So yeah, and we're going to talk about things that will be because you can go a whole video on top of this topic, but I'm going to stay to the main points that anybody could be afflicted by. So let's first talk about the draft. The draft could be used in any country, actually. It does not matter if you are one of the most peaceful countries, never had a war. The moment there is war and the country is in danger, the government could implement the draft. We saw this in Ukraine. The people, the civilians were always told Russia is not going to invade till the last day, that they could not hold it back anymore. So why would they do that? To stay to prevent the same thing that happened to Russia during their draft, and that is that people would flee the country, refugees, people who are trying to get out of the country before they would get drafted. So yeah, it's to keep people in the country, to keep certain positions occupied, to get enough personnel for the military functions and also civilian life. So yeah, these things are something that is a reality that could happen to any country, no matter where you are. So the first question I had was, if you are prepper and you think you could get drafted, what are the things you need to watch out for if you get the draft noticed? Well, first of all, I would say, don't try to volunteer, because that was a question that I had. If you are a volunteer, it's two personal matters to if you're volunteer or not. But if there is a war, it's better to be drafted later on or volunteer later on in during the war. Why? Because any country that will start a war, they will have a certain amount of military personnel that have some small experience. But the war could be fought. Every war has new technologies, new tactics. So yeah, in the beginning, it's always a learning process for every military that is from the both parties, and also the trial and error. So there, the most victims will fall in the beginning of the war, when military commanders with less experience will lead the new troops, the more new troops. So yeah, I would say wait a little bit longer, or wait till you finally get drafted to get into the war. Then you have more chance that you will have more experienced military leaders. You will have more experienced soldiers that could help you in the field, in the platoons, and yeah, perhaps the war is going in a better direction than in the first where they have to find a certain tactic that will succeed above their enemy. So yeah, that's something that you need to watch out for. Another thing is what to do with your preps. So you get your homestead, your preps, and you get drafted. We're going to talk about dodging the draft within a minute, but first I would say, I personally would rather fight when I'm being drafted. Why? Because it's just a moral and ethical thing to do, because you other people will die for the country that you are living in. So yeah, the homestead that I have, my family, my friends. I want them to be protected, and doing the dirty work to other people, that's not in my nature. Not everyone is made for war, or is eager to go to war, or is physically and mentally and psychologically ready to participate in a war. But I find it more ethically to comply with the draft, in my opinion. But we're going to talk about in a minute why it's also sometimes good to dodge the draft. But first of all, what you would do with your preps is trust them with somebody that you trust all your stuff with. I'm talking about parents, family, friends, spouses, your kids, so that if you are away from home, that there is at least somebody who can keep running your little homestead or your preps, that they won't get stolen. The harvest will not start to rot. Your animals will be taken care of, because those are an investment for when you come back from the war. So yeah, that's the first thing you need to do. Find somebody you trust with it, talk them about it, and lure them how to manage everything. So you cannot just say, "Oh, can you stay? Can you watch my stuff when I get away from to the war?" No, you need to learn them how to operate and manage and everything from maintenance and like feeding your animals, or how you run things. So that's something that you absolutely need to do. I don't want to. I'm going to watch my list because I don't want to miss anything. Another thing is, another reason to join the draft, to comply to the draft, is actually the military experience that you got in military skills, survival skills, handling how to handle weapons, and other technical skills that you can acquire. And there is some. This might sound weird, but almost every war in the 20th century, more civilians die than soldiers. Why? Because civilians get more attacked by bigger weapons. Uh, Another thing is food, food rations, and electricity, medical supplies. The military will get priority over those than civilians. So that's another way that you can, as a soldier, survive better. And there are some social and military benefits from when you get back. So like if you get wounded, how do you say this, bonuses. Uh, how do you say this, pensions, and it will also be counted later on for your pension. All those kind of stuff are actually public benefits that you get from joining the military when you get drafted. And another thing is, if you comply with the draft, you will have more sympathy in your community. What do I mean by that? Imagine if you are somebody who would say, "I don't go to war. I don't go to the war," and you do anything to dodge a draft. Yeah, people will not like you in your community. They will see you as a traitor, a coward. That's the you get a social stigma, is what I'm trying to say. So that's another thing, that if you get back from the war, you have more chance to barter with other people, to exchange some services or some goods with other people, because you fought for your country. And that's something that you need to take back, even if you do not agree with war, or the military, or the reason for war. You will get more sympathy from your community if you comply with your draft notice. Another thing is, wait, I think I forgot something. Another thing is brotherhood. When you're in the military, especially during a war situation, you will make friends, like brother in arms, so to say. So if you have been into a battle, you will know who you can trust. You know people that will protect you, and they know you protect them. And those are the friendship that you will count on with your life. So after the war, or when you get back home, you will have made new connections, more new friends, new people with certain skills that you can rely on, because you know what they are capable of. You know that they will have your back, and because you had history, and perhaps some things happened, and you know you can trust that person with your life, and they do the same thing for you. So that's it's always helpful to have some certain relations and connections to some people. Another thing is, I think I'm ready with the draft. And now there is the thing. So for people there are two ways to dodge the draft, and there are legal ways, and there are illegal ways. We're first going to talk about the legal ways to dodge the draft, and that is, why would I say this? Because it does not sound patriotic, but as if I would go into battle, I would rather have somebody who is ready to go to war, mentally, psychologically, and has the will to fight, rather than somebody who does not want to be there, is going to run away from the first bullet that is fired, and will have nothing to do with the military or soldiers or with the war. I would rather have that person be back at home doing civil service, rather than be on the battlefield where you need uh, motivated people to survive the war. So what are the things that you can do if you don't agree with the war or don't want to go to the war? First of all, the next best thing you can do is do civil service. So you can say, I'm a conscious objector. I don't want to kill anybody because for several reasons. For religious reasons, because there are certain religions where you cannot kill anyone, or it's forbidden from doing that. You can do civil service, so that's a way to contribute to the war effort while still be implied with your ethical beliefs. And yeah, but there are other ways you can, if you don't want to go to the war, and that is medical reasons. So yeah, you could get yet not how do you say this, you will not be able to join even if you get drafted, if you have certain medical conditions like asthma, some other heart conditions, or something else that could be dangerous to send you to war with, or to that could make it harder for you to do the task that a soldier must do. So that's another thing that you can do to dodge a draft. Or yeah, I don't say that you have to. It's because we're going to talk about it in a minute about the illegal reasons to dodge a draft. Another thing that you can do is being student, being married, having children. Those are things that could put you on a lower tier to be drafted, because yeah, married person who is married is going to fight, has more to lose during a war. So it's usually single men from certain ages without certain professions or students that will be the first one to be drafted to the war. So that's something that you can do. Keep in mind. So if you think, I don't want to go to war, get drafted, have children, or fulfill certain professions, essential professions, and being a student or something. So yeah, those are things that you can do. Uh, Another thing, yeah, those are the legal reasons to dodge a draft. And to be honest, that's up to yourself. There is no judgment. Not everyone is suited for war. Like I said, I'd rather have somebody who want to go to war next to me on the battlefield than somebody who absolutely does not want to be there. So now we're going to talk about dodging the draft illegally and what the consequences could be. Yet again, you would say that is very unethical to even talk about, but there are certain reasons that you can dodge a draft illegally. And why would you do that? Uh, because the war of your country is not always just. So imagine like World War II, Germany. There were fanatics in the high command of the military that would fight to the last man, even to the last moment of the war. They would still needlessly still fighting, even though they knew the war was almost over. Uh, for example, during World War One, there were still skirmishes being sent by some military leaders that still wanted some glory, and sent men an hour before the war was over to a battle just for some military honor. Military honor on quotes. So if your country is in a war for no right reasons, like for example in Russia now, because they are the invading force, and if you do not agree, I'm agree if your country is being attacked and you get drafted for for the defense of the country, I'm all for it. But if my country would attack, especially for no reason at all, another country, like for oil or some other bullshit reason, yeah, I would say I'm not going to risk my life for the profit of some war profiteers and and some military leaders that just want some glory on their name, or some politicians that want to make a name into history. If you do not agree for that, I can understand that you do not want to go into the war. So yet again, there are some you can there are some ethics in both ways, and yeah, you cannot judge a person for that, in my opinion. For it depends on what reason, of course, and there are several ways to dodge the draft illegally. And the first things are, like I said before, there were medical reasons you can get not drafted when they start to search you, and those are things that there are some certain things you can do to prolong your draft. So what do I mean by that? Like in Russia, we saw many people certainly broke their arm or their legs, so they had a few weeks that they were not being drafted, and perhaps they can do it again. But the same thing goes for STDs. If you're going to get drafted, try. I do not say try to get an STD, but if you get an STD, you also get uh, some time before you get more healthy. You get some antibiotics, and it will take some time before they draft you again. So those were ways, because it was a trick during World War I that soldiers went to prostitutes in Paris during World War I, and they tried to get STD, so they get a month off to recuperate from it behind the lines. So they had a month more to live for the duration of the war. So yeah, I don't say you have to do this, but those are the things that could happen. Certain piece. Another thing was during in the French army. There was a trick that they had where they take a needle, put it between the teeth, and put it beneath their skin, and let it infect, and take the needle out. And that way they have an infection and they cannot be drafted or go to war, be sent to war anymore. But that's very dangerous, because certain soldiers got an infection where they had to amputate the arm, or even they died from it. So yeah, that's not really that good. But if you're really desperate, those are the things that they did. So another thing is, like I said, it's dangerous to do such things, because if you break your arm while you get your draft notice, some certain countries, they will say, okay, your arm is broken, you come back within three weeks for another examination for your draft. But some countries, more totalitarian countries, they will say, it's very suspicious you broke your arm, you did it on purpose, you will go to jail for so many years, and you get other punishments, or you get some social stigmas for it. So those are the dangerous parts of it. So yeah, it's something that you need to watch out for. Another thing is, um, it's also dangerous, but shows sympathy for the enemy. But in a just war, in an unjust war, if your country has an unjust war, you can protest it, and that way, the military, if they know you're against the war and you get drafted, you will be sent. They could send you to positions that will be less dangerous for sabotage, or being a traitor, or civil service. So yeah, those are things that you can do. It's dangerous depending on the country, but it's some things that people done while when they got drafted, or the draft noticed. What you also can do is, of course, getting out of the country, like many people did in Russia and Ukraine at the beginning of the war, or during the drafts. And that's also dangerous, because in every war in the 20th century, people fled the country, and when they got back after the war, they still got sentences to 5 years for being for desertion, fleeing the draft, dodging the draft. I mean, and perhaps even worse, because some people, especially when they got drafted and they were in the military and they deserted, you could get executed for that. Corporal punishment, I think, is the English name. So if you want to bug out for when you get drafted, it's very dangerous, especially if they find you, if you get back, and perhaps you need to stay. You need to stay. Perhaps you need to stay away longer, because during the Vietnam War, 40,000 people went to Canada to dodge the draft, and only, I think, 5 or 7 years later, these people got a pardon and they could return back home if they wanted to, without the risk of jail, or perhaps even worse. So yeah, it depends from country to country and from the war to war, situation to situation. But this is reality of what has been happened, what will happen, and what people probably will do during a war. All right, and I think I talked about everything. Of course, there are many other things you can do. There's one thing I forgot, and I'm very stupid for that, and that is, if you get drafted, I would say try to look up certain services from the military and the government in case you rent a home or you have a mortgage payment. So if you go into war, yeah, normally it would get paid on by your salary, because you get salary if you get into the military, even if you get drafted. But it could be a problem back home, because your landlord could say, he's away, I'm going to put somebody else to get more rent, because this house is that I rent out is empty, so I'm going to make double money by letting the soldier that is being drafted pay for it, and also putting somebody else till he's back. So to protect you from that, there are certain programs in the military and the government that will protect you, protect your rented home or your mortgage payment till you get back from the war, that you do not have to think about that while you're being there in the trenches and think, oh shit, will my payments for my mortgage get through? So that's something that you need to look into when you think you get drafted or when you're about to get drafted. So that's a small tip that I just wanted to let you know, that I forgot to tell you in the beginning. So if you have any experience with war and being drafted, or such know such persons that have been through this, please let me know certain things that I've forgotten to say in this that could be fitted into into this video, because I'm always eager to learn. It could help other people, especially in this time where World War III is right around the corner for a lot of people. So yeah, it is something that I really wanted to talk about. So I would say thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff, and thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Cheers.